This video is going to cover solving systems of inequalities using the graphing calculator. So here you can see right here we have a coordinate plane with a bunch of coordinates on it, and we're trying to identify which of these coordinate points are solutions to this system of inequalities. Now, as I read through this, clearly I can see that there's going to be 3 solutions. So I'm going to make sure that I remember that as I look for my solutions once I graph it. The first thing that we're going to do is we're going to convert both of these to y equals, or y whatever the sign is. We're just going to solve for y in both of them. Now I'm going to solve for y in this first one, and I want you to pay attention before you solve things, the sign in front of y. Because this is an inequality, the sign in front of y kind of matters. And in this case, it really matters because it's a negative number in front of y. It's a negative 1 in front of y. So I know that eventually I'm going to have to divide by a negative 1. That means I'm going to have to flip this sign. But the first thing that I'm going to do is eliminate the x term using inverse operations. The inverse here is subtraction. And if I subtract a 2x to eliminate this 2x, I've got to make sure that I follow the property or the rule and do it to the other side, just like you always do with inverse operations. So 2x minus 2x is 0, so we're left with a negative y is greater than negative 6 minus 2x. We cannot combine these, and we do not need to rewrite them. The calculator is going to read it like that. So we can go ahead and bring the now we can go ahead and get rid of this negative. Since it's a negative 1, we know that we've got to divide because it's being multiplied. So we're going to divide negative 1 here, and then we're going to divide negative 1 to the other side, and I'm making sure that I divide it to the entire side. Negative 1 and negative 1 divided cancel to 1, and we're just left with y. Now because I divided by a negative, I've got to flip this sign, so I'm going to point it the other direction. Now I can simplify the signs and the numbers here. So negative divided by negative is a positive, and 6 divided by 1 is just 6. A negative divided by negative is a positive, and 2 divided by 1 is 2, and x divided by 1 is x. So we have y is less than 6 plus 2x. Now this second inequality, we have 3x plus y is greater than negative 4. Now I'm going to look at the sign in front of y. It's a positive and the number is a 1, so I know that I'm not going to have to flip this sign because I will not have to divide by a negative. The first step here stays the same. We're going to subtract 3x to eliminate the 3x. We make sure that we do it to both sides. These simplify to 0. We're left with a positive y, which is the same thing as just y. We don't need to flip the sign. We'll keep it. I should have wrote an x here when I originally did that, sorry. We can't combine these, and we don't need to rewrite them, so we've solved both of them for y. Now we can go ahead onto the second step, which is use the graphing calculator. So I'm going to pull up this graphing calculator, and now before I start typing things in this expression box, so if you don't know where to go, you'll probably see the scientific feature first, hit graphing, get to graphing, then it'll take you to expressions. This is where we're going to type the 2 in, but before I do that, I'm going to make it a little bit easier for me to identify the points that are solutions by using this window feature. Now, if you look at this coordinate plane to the left, and you look at the x values and the y values that the coordinate plane has, we know that the maximum x value is 10, and the minimum x value is negative 10. The same thing is true for y. However, if you look at the coordinate points, for example, D is the furthest on the left, or is the smallest coordinate that has the x value of negative 6. So if I'm making this window, and I know that the coordinate point that is on the lowest x value is negative 6, then what I can do is just use that next number to make it a little bit more zoomed in when we graph. So I'm going to make it a negative 7. Sorry, that was a really bad way of explaining that. I'm just looking at the coordinate planes. Look at the x first. Here, find the furthest left point. The furthest left point is D. D is on negative 6 on the x, so we'll just make it negative 7. So I'm going to type in -7 here. Then I'm going to do the same thing for the max. So if I go to the right, what's the maximum? Okay, it looks like the furthest right point is on 8 for the x. So we're just going to use 9. And it's just going to help us see zoomed in better, right? If you don't do this, that's fine. You can still find the right answer. It just might take you a little bit longer. We're going to do the same thing for y. So the lowest y is -8. So we'll just use -9 for the minimum. And then for the max, it's 6. So we can just use 7 for the max y. And then the scale, we obviously want to go up by 1. So 7 for the max. And then I don't know what this trace size is, but let's just see what happens if we put in a 1. Now we can go back to the expression bar, and we can type these two things in. So our first one right here is y is less than, which is this sign, 6 plus, and then 2, and I've got to get the x, which is over here. And then our second one is down here. So we're going to drop down to this next one, is y is less as well. -4 minus 3x. Double check to make sure you typed it in right. Sign's good, sign's good, sign's good. All the numbers are good. I've got both x's. Now I can hit graph. Now you can see, because we sized our window beforehand, we've got 9, we've got -9, we've got -7, we've got 9, what do we got up here? 6 or 7 up here, right? What we're looking for is this dark region. So we want to locate the points that would be in this dark region if they were to be plotted. Now, I know that there's supposed to be 3. So which ones do I know for sure are already in? Well, if you look here, clearly h, which is at -5, -5, which would be -5, -5, is in somewhere right here. So I know that h is in. I also know that f is in. Because look, f is at -2 on the x and -2 on the y. Here's -2 on the x, -2 on the y. So it would be right here. Now is d in? D looks like it is pretty close, but I can see that's on -6, and here's -6. So d's not in the darkest region, so that's not going to be a solution. Well, what's the other solution? Well, the other closest point is I. Looks like it's on -6 on the y, and it looks like -6 is in the darkest region. So we know that our 3 points are H, F, and I. So I'm going to write those down, or just underline them. We know we found our 3 points. Now the fifth step is to list them in alphabetical order. So we're going to go ahead and do that. So F comes before H, which comes before I. We'll do one more example. So we're going to do the same exact thing. We're going to solve both of these for y. So we have x plus y. And we're going to pretend that this is a less than. So let me rewrite this so you don't get confused. That is even more confusing. Okay, so this is a less than, not an equal to. And now we're just going to solve for y. So the first thing we're going to do is eliminate the x term using inverse. X minus x is 0. We're left with positive y, which is just y. So here is our answer. Let's do the same thing for the other one. Now in this one I can already see the sign in front of y is a negative. So eventually I'm going to have to divide by a negative. But the first thing I'm going to do is inverse on the x, subtract it. X minus x is 0. We're going to subtract x to the other side. Now we have a negative y, which is the same thing as -1y, right? So we can go ahead and divide by this -1 to simplify this to a positive 1y, which is just y. And we can divide the other side by -1 as well. And I make sure I do it to both. Because we divided by a negative, I'm going to flip the sign. Simplify my signs here. Negative is a positive. 4 divided by 1 is 4. Negative is a positive. X divided by 1 is x. So we've got both of our inequalities. We can go to the graphing table. Before I enter in my values, I'm going to set up my window. And because the coordinate points are the exact same, we can leave the window the way we had it when we did the last example. I'm going to go here and I'm going to delete these inequalities, and then I'm going to type in the new ones. So I have y is less than 8, so y is less than is already set up, and we have 8 minus x. That's good. Second one, y is less than as well, and we have 4 plus x. Now we can hit graph. Move this over here. Our window is nice and zoomed in, so we don't need to zoom in, zoom out, or scroll really. We're looking for how many points? We're looking for just 1 point. Well, it looks like there's way more than 1 point. So did I do something wrong when I was trying to solve this for y? Yes, it looks like I did make a mistake. Do you see here how the original inequality was x minus y is greater than -4? And when I set it up right here, I did set it up greater than -4. So where's my mistake? How come there's more than one solution here? Maybe the question's wrong. I'm going to go back and just verify real quick. Sign's good. X plus y equals 8. Minus x, y is less than 8. That's good. X minus y is greater than 4. X minus y is greater than -4. I solved everything correctly. So clearly there's a mistake with the question. So let's pretend, for example, for a minute that there's more than one solution. So what would our solutions be? Well, which ones can we definitely rule out? We know that 6 isn't in, or A isn't in. We know that D isn't in. D's on -6. Okay. Now it looks like F is in. -2, -2 is right there. And I'm looking at the coordinate for this point, and I'm verifying it in the window. Is H in? -5, -5. -5 would be between these two. -5 would be between these two. Looks like H is in. So far we have F, we have H. What about I? Well, I is right on -6. That's clearly in. J is on 2, -8. 2, -8. J is clearly in. G is on 6, -4. So we have 6, -4. Looks like G's in. What about E? 3, 1. 3 would be between 2 and 4, so 3, and then 1 would be somewhere right here. Looks like E's in. What about C? 8, 2. 8's right here, 2's right here. C is clearly out. What about B? 2, 4. 2's right here, 4's right here, so B's in. So let me go ahead and underline the ones that we know are in. H is in, F is in, I was in, J was in, G was in, E was in, B was in, C was out, A was out. I'm going to list my answers. D was out. I'm going to list my answers in alphabetical order. B, E. Can I figure this out? Here we go. F, H, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I've got 7 solutions to this particular problem, and I put them in alphabetical order. This person who made the question, which was me, stinks. Use this video as you go through your problem set to help you out. I would probably use this video on your problem and do the same exact things that I did in this one.